I have a friend called Captain Webhooks who likes to regularly show me pictures of his booty. Hang on, that didn't come out right. What I mean is that he likes to go on raids and then show me booty. No, that's not right either. Let me try again. I have a friend called Captain Webhooks and his crew who like to go on raids and return treasure. There we go. And show me pictures of the treasure that they gain. And they want to do it inside a chat app. Maybe a picture will get me out of trouble and help me show you what I mean. Here I have a chat app space, and what I'm going to do is create some webhooks for every time that Captain Webhook and his crew go on a raid and then return and show me their treasure. We're going to start off by generating some webhooks in some standard text, and then we're going to go on and create some cards. Before we'll actually do the full before we actually do the full treasure raid, as you can see over in this thread here. Let's run a quick demo to see what's happening. So in my Google Apps script here, I've got a start raid and I'm going to run this start raid here. And let's just head over and see what's going to happen. So we've got a booty report, pirate raid, show me the booty is the first thing that's appeared. And then we've got an unread message. So let's click on that and see what happens. So we found some booty, Captain. The booty type is spices and it was pirated by Jellylegs Jenkins the Jittery. Fantastic. Another one of the crew has come up to the captain and said he's found another piece of booty, and that is some gems, and that's by Patchy Pete the Peculiar. You can see more and more booty come in as it is discovered during the raid. And over on the left hand side here, you can see replies increasing as well as more and more of the crew find bits of booty, right up until it reaches 10. And then the raid has finished. Okay, so it's much more fun and you'll learn a lot more too if you play along. So grab a copy of the code in the link in the description below. That will send you to a link to the written tutorial. They'll look a little bit like this. If you scroll down through the written tutorial, you'll be able to find yourself to a link to the starter sheet. Click the link to the starter sheet. From there, head over to the overviews. In the overview sections, click Make a Copy. This will create your very own copy of the starter sheet that you can work in for this video tutorial. I'm going to go and rename things to my chat app, Webhooks, starter sheet, and hit rename, just so I know the difference between the other one that I'm working on. Okay, so let's dive into the code. So before we dive in, what are webhooks? So webhooks are HTTP post requests that are usually generated by triggered events. The events could come from any third-party source within Google Workspace or from another third-party source. Imagine you got an on-edit trigger when you click a checkbox in a Google Sheet and you want to deliver that information when someone clicks a checkbox in that Google Sheet to your Google chat. Well, you can use a webhook to do that. Alternatively, you might have a daily or half daily clock trigger event to update some of the results that you might get or a summary of the results you get from additions to a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. And you want to see them in your Google Chat. Another use case of webhooks might be receiving triggers from Google Cloud Monitoring Service if there's an error or something interesting comes up in your code when a user runs it. Externally, you might want to keep a track of all the payments that you're receiving from, say, a course or external payments from clients, either via Stripe or PayPal or some other API that allows for webhooks. You might even want to get updates on when you get new patrons in your Patreon account or through Gumroad. There's truly a limitless amount of uses for webhooks in Google Chat. Now, not every webhook is made the same. They usually generate or deliver an object or a JSON object, but Google Chat requires the data to be processed in a certain way. So you're going to need some intermediary step to curate this data and put it into a format that Google Chat requires. I'm using Google Apps Script for this. You could use your own favorite programming language or even directly from your CLI. So our first step is to create a new Google Chat space. Now, of course, you don't require a brand new space each time you create a webhook, but in our case, we are going to create a new one. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to the sidebar here, expand it, and create a space. We'll call it Captain Webhook and Crew's Booty Calls. Okay, so a description is going to be an exhaustive interruption regarding the latest loot and treasure hauled in from the crew of the HTTP request. Get it? I know, hilarious. Okay, from here we can add in groups or the name of a person we want to join this Captain Hooks and Crew's Booty Calls space. I'm going to add my tester account and then my own account. You don't need to add your own, but I'll just show this here as an example because I am the creator. Cool bananas. Done. We can change our access here. That's for a different tutorial. One cool thing we probably want to add in though is our icon. Now we used this before in preparing this, but we're going to put a hook in here because obviously Captain Webhooks makes sense, doesn't it? Let's hit create. Okay, now that we've got our space all set up, we can start adding webhooks to it. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, we are only going to add one. So let's go ahead and do that now. Up the top here, there's a little drop-down menu near the title. We're going to click on it, and then we're going to head down to Apps and Integration. Now, Apps Integration is going to give us a list of apps that we can add to the space or the webhooks that we're also going to add to the space. We're going to add a webhook here. And we're going to call it Booty Reports. And we've got an avatar already. And I'm just going to copy this link here. Now you can find the link to this avatar to play along in the description in the YouTube video or in the written version of this course. Up to you. But I've added that in here and I'm going to hit save. Nice. Now, as you can see, the avatar has been added and then we've got a URL message here. So this is the URL that we're going to call in our app script to trigger a message to be added to the space. Now, keep this secret because it has some personal details in it here. It has a key identifying your account and it also has a token identifying the current space. So these are two private things. If you share this URL with those values, anyone can access that and you don't want anyone sinister like that doing things. That's why these things will be blurred for you as we create this. So you're going to have to replace it with your own as you generate it. So next to our newly created webhook, I'm going to select these three vertical ellipses and then I'm going to select copy link. Back in our app script here, we're going to create our first webhook. And our first webhook is just going to send some text to this space. So let's get started. So your starter sheet should look a little bit like this with the files in it here. Probably minus the dark mode, but that's just my personal preference. I'm going to hide this file section in a lot of the tutorial just to make it easier for you to see the full extent of what I'm typing, but you should have this available to you here. Now, as you can see in this starter sheet, there is a code.js file and there's also a data.js file. The data.js file we'll use a little bit later to incorporate our process to make these calls from the RAID. Okay, so back in our code.js file, which I'm going to click here, we're going to create a function. And that function is going to be called webhook underscore v1 for version 1. It's not going to take any parameters or arguments. And the first variable we're going to add is a constant variable. That's one that doesn't change. And that is going to be the URL we just copied. And that's equal to, and then I'm going to hit paste. Now, as you can see, the URL has a link directly to the space, which is this code here, and then to the messages. Then it will have a query for the key and the token, which it has been blurred at the moment. Now you'll have your own space ID here, and you'll also have your own key and token values as well. Right now, I'm going to abstract these key and token values into a second variable, just so I can add them in where needed. So I'm going to add a secret.js file here, and then I'm going to put in my values here. First one is going to be the URL, just to make it easier for myself, the key, and the token. From your original URL, paste your core URL here, in double quotation marks, add in a comma, and the same for your key. Now, of course, I'm just doing a sample here. I'll be pasting in my own in a moment. And then in your token. All right, go ahead and do that now, and then I'll meet you back at Code.js. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is to change this from double quotation marks to backtick or template literals here. So little backticks. And then I'm going to get rid of my keys here and the token. So, and I'm going to insert my, my secret data instead. Let's save. Now that we have everything as a secret, I'm going to hide this column here and we are good to go. Okay, so we've got our URL. That's awesome. So to send off our webhook, we are going to use a Google Apps script class called the URL fetch app. So this will be down the bottom of our function, and we'll say const for constant response because we want to get a value back once we send it. And we're going to call the URL fetch app that should appear here. And then we're going to make use of the fetch method of this app. Now, this URL fetch method can take one or two variables. If you just want to return the URL values, then URL, but we also want to add in a bunch of options, which is going to include our method type, our headers, and a payload. So what we'll do here is we'll add in our URL, which we've got, and then we're going to add in a options variable, which we haven't created yet, but we'll create soon. Now, before we do that, we are going to log the values once we get them back. So we'll say console.log and then response dot, and then we can use the URL fetch apps get content text method. And this is this method will return our JSON results back from the Google Chat app API. Nice. Okay, so here, now it's time to create the options variable. And this options variable is going to be an object that we pass. And the first thing we need to pass through is the method. And what type of method are we going to use? It's going to be a post method. So posting data out to another source is how I remember it. And then we also need to include some headers. So here, the chat API that we'll be basically invoking or calling to requires that our content be transformed into JSON in a UTF-8 format. So we need to be explicit in our headers that this is what we're sending it. So here we're going to say content dash type, and that content type is going to be a string containing application / JSON semicolon char set is equal to UTF-8. Cool. All right, so it's our headers sorted out. Now, our last thing we need to add in is our text payload. So we'll put a comment in here, and our next property of this options object is going to be the payload. So payload here. And that's going to be equal to, and we need to stringify this. So let's do this in line. Stringify. And let's stringify an object containing text. And that text is going to be I'm hooked. Because, you know, webhook. Yar. Also, because pirate. Let's put in an emoji for pirates. There's one there. Lovely. Nice. We've got everything I think we need. If we've made a mistake, we'll find out in a moment. But I think we're good to go. Let's hit run. So this is going to simulate like a triggered event that's going to pass in through our Google App script and then run, hopefully display in our app. So to see it live, we probably want to move over to here just so we can see it popping up if there's no errors. Let's go ahead and hit save. Then we're going to hit run. And first time through, we'll need to run our authorization. Oh, we got an error. Got an error here. It's not particularly helpful, but if we go back up here, we can see content type wasn't done very well in the headers. We missed a T there. Let's try run again. Oh, there it is. Look, it's popping up here. It's popping up everywhere. I'm hooked. Yar. Awesome. You know what? We've just triggered our first webhook inside our space. Well done if you're playing along and you've been successful. Okay, before we continue on, let's just have a look and see what also happened in our log after we logged the event. A bunch of useful data is returned back. It might come in handy for you if you have a larger project and you want to record these values. You can see the most important thing here is that the text item has been returned, and we've also got the space name and the state here as well. So that's fairly handy. That's pretty fun, but when Captain Webhook is going to make a raid, he is probably going to declare that a raid has started, and then his crew are going to report what they've found during the raid. Now, he could be adding more items here, so another treasure like this in the report and fill up this primary section of our chat space. But this could get confusing the next time he has a raid and it might start to blend in together. So a really good way of handling this is to keep everything subject focused or topic focused. And we can do that by hovering over a chat message and then moving over to the right here, you can see that there is a reply in thread button here. I'm going to click on that and you can see there's a thread and that's directly related to this I'm hooked yar statement here. So if I say hi here, you can see it's not coming up in the main thread. It's only occurring in the secondary thread here. If we made another statement, went yar back, again, it's not appearing in the main thread, but there is evidence to say that there are two replies in that thread. So that's super handy. How do we go about making a webhook that only sends to a reply? Well, what we need is a thread key, or we need to generate a thread key. So let's go ahead and do that now. So using our original webhook v2, we're going to make a copy of it, and you need to do the same. And then here we'll replace v1 with v2. And we're going to add in a few things here. We're going to extend this string out with some more queries. And fairly new to working with URLs, the query occurs after this question mark. Okay, so we're going to add a plus symbol here, and that allows us to work on a new line just to make things a little bit more convenient for us. And the first thing we need to add in here is a property called message reply option. And that message reply option is going to be equal to one of three message types. For us, we want to use the reply underscore message underscore fallback underscore to underscore new underscore thread. And then we'll put in a little ampersand here as well. Indeed, what we should do here is add an ampersand to say we've got another doobly-doo coming along too. In fact, let's break this up a little bit more. What we'll do after the query indicator, this question mark here, is we'll close this backtick section, add a plus symbol, put it into here, and start another backtick section. Let's keep things the same, Scott, and change those to from double quotation marks to backticks. We'll add another plus symbol here. We've got our key and our secret location. Let's go after the ampersand, after the keys, and add in two more backticks and a plus symbol in the middle. And then after the plus symbol, we'll hit return to put it on a new line. Doesn't it look a lot neater now? Yes, it does, they said. So this message reply option says reply message fallback to new threads. It basically means add this to an existing thread with a particular key. But if that key doesn't exist, create a brand new thread in the main thread. There are two other options. First one being message reply option unspecified. That means every time just create a new thread. That's basically what we did in this first example here. And you don't need to explicitly specify that. That's the default. Another option is reply message or fail. So you want to reply to a thread, and if that thread doesn't exist, then it's going to return an error and fail. This is the ideal one for us, I think, here. Okay, so after that, what do we need to add? So next thing we need to add is the thread key. The thread key is thread_key, and that's going to be equal to a thread key. Now you can make this anything you want. We're going to keep with the theme, and we'll call our thread key booty 001. Okay, so that will indicate for this current raid, it will be booty 001. The next raid might be booty 002. So later down the track, we might have a counter indicator here. And I think we're about done now. So that should be our URL. Our options here shouldn't change, but now we should have an indicator of a thread key that we've created, this booty 001. That should actually be returned in our content text as well. Let's change what we're going to say here so you can see some different things going on. Okay, so let's change this one to Pirate Raid, show me the booty, followed by a bunch of gems and all sorts of pirate type shenanigans. Let's hit save now and go up and change our function that will run to Webhook version 2, and we'll click run. Awesome. Indication that we've got a new item here. Let's have a look now in our logs. We can see in one of our items of our logs now we have a thread key, and that is equal to booty 001. Cool, that's exactly what we're after. Let's run it again and see what happens. Awesome. So instead of creating a brand new message now, we are creating a message inside the thread here. Let's run it one more time. A second reply has been added. Awesome. And that's inside that message too. Perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. Now there is a slightly alternative approach to adding the thread key. Let me quickly show you. So let's just copy this again. We'll duplicate it down the bottom here. Now instead of adding it here, we can actually add it to the payload. So we'll put a comment in after the text. And this time around, we need to add the subheader thread. Now, if I show you in the logs very quickly, you can see here that we've got this thread item here. Within this thread property here, there is a thread key. So that's what we want to do next. Now, don't make the thread key look like this because you'll get an error. It has to be thread_lowercase key. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. And so it'll be this thread key here, copy, and then our identifier will be, we'll make it booty 2 just so you can see the difference. So it'll be booty, we'll keep it booty 1. Why not? Let's do that. We could keep it like that, but let's say it can stay consistent. Now we can delete this option out. So I'll have to delete that. I'll have to delete plus sign and the ampersand and put another backtick in. And let's just change the text slightly to so we know what's going on. We'll just say booty thread from object from payload object. Hey, and of course the obligatory YAR. We'll hit save. We got version 2 webhooks. Let's change that one to version 3. Hit save, and select version 3. Hit run now. It should appear in this section here. Awesome. Cool. So you can see that the thread keys occurred again, but we've got the booty thread from payload object YAR. So both approaches work. It just depends on stylistically which version that you like. I kind of like this way, but it's a little bit extra clicky clacky as well. That's pretty fun using a webhook to add in some text here, but I also discovered that we could use cards like we can in the chat API. So what do I mean by cards? So let's go back into my other version over here. If you have a look up the top here, you can see this really stylistic card here with a picture of the booty type and then who it was pirated by and textiles here. So let's generate this. So how do we go about that? Okay, so let's not reinvent the wheel too much. Let's go back up to, let me think. Let's go back up to our webhook version 1 and copy that and go all the way down the bottom here. And let's change this to, we're up to number 4. Well done, gang. We've come a long way. Okay, so next we're going to add in some variables. The first one is const, and that's going to be called booty. This is going to call a function I've already got in the starter sheet here called get booty. And if you have a look, booty selects a booty item from the list. The booty actually contains two properties. The first one is type and the second one is a URL to display the booty picture. Again, that didn't come out right. I apologize. Okay, so let's head down and create another variable, constant one that won't change, and this is going to be called pirate. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the booty one, but all these are randomly generated from a function. If you're curious about it more, you can have a look at the functions in the other page in this app script project that you have. But this one is just get pirate. And this is going to return a string with a random pirate from the pirate list. Okay, so we need to make some changes here, but fortunately the only change we really have to make is a change to the payload. Now we can add a card in by itself without text, but it's probably a good placeholder, so let's keep it there. And what we're going to do is add in a card. Now, of course, it's never simple just to write cards or cards. We actually have to write card and then remember to write v2 as well for version 2. And now we're going to add in a function that we'll create in a second, and that's going to be called create card. Very creative. Ha. And it's going to contain two properties. First one is going to be the booty, and the next one is going to be the pirate. All right, so let's create this create card. So function create card. And let's just do some documentation for it. So what's create card going to do? So it creates a card to display the booty from the current haul. It's going to take two arguments. The first one is going to be called booty, and the second one is going to be called pirate. It's going to return a card version 2 object for the webhook payload. So let's get that cracking. Or we probably shouldn't say cracking around pirate, should we? All right, anyway, let's continue. So let's start from the bottom and work our way up because it's kind of one of those builder functions. So let's hit return, and inside a return, we are going to return an array of cards. We're only going to have one card, and you usually only have one card in a chat app response. But nevertheless, we're going to keep it in an array. And inside that array is an object, and this object's first property is going to be the card ID, and that's going to be equal to booty. And next we have a card property, and that's going to give us all the details about that card. So in this card, we are going to put in another object, and inside this object is going to contain a name of the card. Again, so kind of double handling, like card ID is the non-human readable version of the card, and this is the human readable. So we'll say your booty cap. And next we can create a header for the card. And that's just sort of the title area. This can contain like an avatar, it can contain links, a header and subheader. But for us, we're going to create a variable called card header, which we'll add to up above. Finally, we're going to add a list of sections. And before we do that, let's just scroll down a bit so you can see what's going on. Probably trying to look under your screen to find the rest of it. Sections. Okay, sections is also an array, so you can create multiple sections inside your card message. Keep in mind, it's not like a website where you can scroll down and down and down in chat. It gets cumbersome the more you have to scroll down in chat software. So keep things short and concise. So I recommend between 1 and 3 sections per message. For us, we're going to keep it even smaller and just have one. And this section is going to be the booty section. Lovely. And I think that's all we have in our sections there. Cool. So now we have our sections built. We're going to go up and let's create a header first. So const this card header is equal to another object. It can contain a lot of things like a subheader, like I said, and an image, but we just want to show a title. And that title is going to be in backticks booty, it's a booty type, and that booty type is going to be booty, and this is the argument from this booty here. So we've got dollar signs, curly braces, booty dot type. Cool. All right, so this cart header is feeding into here. Next. So let's create our next variable is our booty section. So const booty section, and that's going to be equal to another object, and this object will contain an array of widgets. So widgets, and this array of widgets here is going to contain two. The first one is going to be the booty widget. Oh, cootie. Let's hope they don't have cooties. Booty widget. And we're also going to have the booty image widget here. Awesome. And now we need to generate them as well. So let's go ahead and do that. The first one is going to be a decorated text item. So const booty widget is equal to another object here. And this is a decorated text. So decorated text. And this decorated text property is an object in itself. And let me explain decorated text very quickly. It allows you to stylize your text a little bit more. It can give you little top headers and top labels and bottom labels. It can create buttons and links and small iconographic images as well. So let's add in a top label to demonstrate this. So top label. You can grab all these subsections in the documentation, and I have a link to certain parts of the documentation as I run through the written version of the code in the written tutorial that you can find in the link in the description below. So what have we got? Our top label is going to be, say, who pirated the booty item. So pirated by, and a colon there. We'll create a start icon. Now, there are a list of icons that come with this card service builder, and they can be found in the known icon property. Oh, I didn't put a comma up here. That's why it was yelling at me. And unfortunately, which I find is a real bummer, there is no pirate icon. I think we should collectively complain about that. But in the time being, let's use the person icon. Of course, you can also add your own custom URL icon. This tutorial is getting long enough as it is, so let's give it a miss, eh? Next is text. Oh, text. And that's going to be, this time, let's create a font color. So font color. So here, as you can see, there's some very basic HTML we can add in. And that's going to be, let's say 5, make it like a pirate wooden brownie color. So that's 2AOE. Or this has to be in single quotation marks too. So we'll put that font color in that. Close font color. And let's now include the pirate. And I just realized I've used double quotation marks on this. I need to use backticks. So there's one there and a backtick there. Cool. And then at the end, we need to close the font. And that should be good to go. All right, so that's the decorated text done. Then our last little item here, const booty image widget. And that's going to be equal to another object. And that object is going to contain an image property. And let's, I suppose we should do it the same as above. Image. And this image property is going to take another object here. I don't know why, but anyway, let's call it, we'll say image URL or URL. And that image URL is going to be our booty.url. Good. Let's just make sure everything is fine here without any issues. That's this one here. Image URL, yeah. Booty. Alright, I think we're okay. Hit save. Cross our fingers. And we're going to go to our Webhook version 4 now and click on that and run it, see how we went. Awesome. As you can see, we've been notified and we have created a card with our webhook. Fantastic. Nice. So the last thing I want to do is simulate something a bit more useful. And imagine Captain Webhook and his crew are out on a raid, and he has reported to me, like he loves to do, that he is on a raid now, and now he's showing me pictures of the treasure that his crew are collecting as the crew come up to him and show him the treasure items. So the first thing that we need to do here is to generate a thread key and declare that a raid has started. So let's create a function called notify or webhook. And then we want to add in our URL along with our thread key. So it's going to be, let's go up to maybe webhook 2. This is probably the prettiest one. So let's just grab that one. We'll copy this URL item here and put that into our new function. And then we want to make our declaration of our text. So we can also maybe go back up to webhook 2 and I think we can pretty much grab everything here. Yeah, let's grab all of this, including the option, Control C, and mosey on down to here. Awesome. Now this is going to be a permanent torment for me from Captain Webhooks. So he's going to tell me every time he has a raid and wants to show me his booty. I did it again, I apologize. Okay, so here we need to change this into a variable. So we're going to change this booty, this fixed booty type into a thread key that can change and be modified. So here we are going to type in haul ID. And up here, we're also going to include haul ID. And this haul ID is going to be generated and stored for you using some of the script in the starter sheet here. So you don't have to worry about that part too much. Okay, but it will increment by 1 each time, displaying a new haul ID every time there is a raid. Nice, so we've got that bit done here. What else do we need to change? Our text is fine, pirate raid show booty. This is a good declaration of what's happening. Let's change this around just a little bit. Let's make a const resp text, and that's going to be equal to response dot get content text. We're actually going to be returning this content text, and we can put this in the console log now, replace that. Now we also need to get the thread key. Now we could return one of two things. We could return the haul ID because it's going to be the same thing, but just for fun and games, we're going to create a const thread key just to prove that everything is working correctly. We're going to say JSON.pass to pass this get content text string, and that's going to be the resp text, and then from that we're going to get the thread key. So this is going to be hopefully going to be the same as this, and then we're going to return that. Like I said, kind of redundant, but it just shows that we can use the return response data in our script. Cool. Okay, so once it's declared, we've generated our thread key. We need to use the same thread key to make further posts displaying these sort of booty images as they come up from the crew as they find new stuff. Cool. So let's create another function now. It's going to be called haul booty webhook. This time around, let's use our version 3 for this, just so we can show that we can use it. So I'm going to use this version 3 here. I'm going to copy all of this again, scroll on down, and paste it in here. Okay, this whole booty webhook is also going to take the thread key as an argument, the booty, and the pirate as an argument as well. We're not going to generate these functions internally. They're going to be done on a separate process that you don't have to worry about this time round. Okay, so we've got everything here. One thing we do need to change is this thread key. So this will replace with this item here. Oops. Cool. And then we also want to include our cards v2 parameter as well into our payload. So let's just scroll up to, where is it? This webhook version 3, I think it is. And we'll just copy this. And let's just paste it below the text and put it, don't forget to put a comma in at the end to include the thread. Now, so here, remember, we've got this create card. We've already created this. We don't have to create it again. We're going to add the booty and the booty information, the pirate information that we grabbed from the main argument of the function in here, and it's going to return everything nice and pretty again. So we don't have to make any more changes there either. The last thing we need to do is start our RAID though. So we're going to say function start RAID. And what I want you to do here is just to call another function. This is going to be called create RAID. And the create RAID should now first call your notify all webhook after a few seconds to give you enough time to jump into your chat app. And then it's going to be at somewhat different times, run your whole booty function and randomly select a booty item and a pirate and display it in the subthread of the main thread from the thread key that we generated. All right, good luck, gang. This should be pretty exciting. So as soon as you hit run and you see everything's working nice, head over to your chat app and have a run at it. So we're going to hit run. I ran the wrong one. Webhook version 4. Well, at least we know that's working pretty. Let's head over to our start RAID. There we go. And let's hit run now. Now, if you're scrolling down in here, you can see that it's taken the first item for the RAID as being number 2 here. You can see set 10 unread. If we click on this and open it up, you can see that the pirate RAID has started here, and then as the crew come in, they're adding in their pirate booty that they have found. Okay, so that's the first one, and that first pirate RAID is going to match one of the ones that already exist. Let's try and close this thread. What about when we run another RAID? So Captain Webhook runs another RAID. We get a notification of a RAID starting, and you can see the RAID has started here. And first, one of the sailors has come back with a RAID item. So they've got Jelly Jenkins has got some spice. Cannibal Charlie, he's got some gold. Cannibal Charlie comes back again with some gems, must have it in each hand. Patchy Pete, the peculiar, he's got some gold. Another item's come in. Rum Soap Roger, more gold. This is a pretty profitable raid, seems. Another 2 more items have come in. This time it's jewelry and some spice. Another item, spice again. Fantastic. Some textiles this time. And some more textiles at the end. Awesome. The raid was successful with 10 items that have come in. Okay, cool. So everything worked out successfully. The raid was a win. That's how you can generate webhooks independently from your Google Chat space using Google Apps Script. Now, as I said before, you can use your favorite programming language to do this. However, I do prefer AppScript because it keeps it in the same ecosystem. Now, thanks for suffering along with me as Captain Webhook shows off his pirate booty. Now, this tutorial is part of a larger series on Google Chat apps using Google App Scripts. If you enjoyed this part of the series, go back and start at the beginning where we explore creating chat apps, and we even go through creating a currency converter chat app that you can take home and use on your own or in your own organization. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please hit that like button, and if you want to see more tutorials like this, subscribe. Until next time.